Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to trace the dramatic escalation of hacking. We're talking about a journey from innocent academic computer code all the way to a highly organized geopolitical weapon. If you've ever wondered exactly how we got from harmless computer pranks to massive digital operations designed to sway the balance of world power, you are in the exact right place.
Okay, let's dive right into this. The intent behind hacking has undergone just a staggering transformation. Back in the 1970s, curious academics were simply jumping between computers to leave, well, harmless little messages. Fast forward to 2016, and we're looking at state-sponsored actors hacking private data specifically to influence global democratic elections. That massive leap? It's absolutely crucial for making sense of modern global politics. So here's our roadmap to trace this 50-year escalation. First, the evolution of hacking. Second, from pranks to sabotage. Third, hacktivism and data breaches. Fourth, hacking global politics. And finally, the future of cyber warfare.
Let's kick things off with Part 1, the evolution of hacking. Our starting point is the ARPANET creeper in the 1970s. And honestly, this was just a benign academic experiment driven by pure curiosity. It was a revolutionary program for its time, sure, but it was designed simply to jump between computers on the early internet and display a harmless message. There were no political motives here, no financial extortion, and definitely no geopolitical maneuvering. It was just an exploration of what network connectivity could actually do.
Moving right along to Part 2, from pranks to sabotage.
Across just a few short decades, the threat rapidly escalated, which is exactly what prompted the creation of modern cybersecurity. The stakes grew exponentially with every leap, shifting from the harmless creeper to serious, undeniable sabotage, pretty much forcing our defensive measures to frantically catch up.
A really crucial turning point happened in 1988 with the Morris worm, which gave us the very first denial of service, or DOS, attack. So what is that? It's an attack designed to slow down or shut down a network, making it completely inaccessible to users. What's absolutely fascinating here is that its creator, Robert Morris, originally intended only to highlight security flaws, but, well, the code got out of hand, causing an extensive partition of the entire internet. It was a massive wake-up call that a programmer's good intent didn't really matter if the code itself was destructive.
And just a year later, in 1989, the threat model shifted completely toward financial extortion with the AIDS Trojan. Created by Joseph Popp, this was actually distributed via physical floppy disks. Yeah, you heard that right, malware sent through snail mail. This stands as the very first ransomware attack in history, proving that malicious code could be distributed physically and used to hold systems hostage for cold, hard cash.
So by 1995, we finally see a major defensive response. The introduction of Secure Sockets Layer, or SSL, gave us secure web browsing. By establishing encrypted communications between a device and its online destination, SSL paved the way for HTTPS. This development is literally the exact reason we can safely navigate the internet today. It was an essential, almost relieving structural response to all that growing chaos.
But despite those groundbreaking protections, the scale of the threat was still accelerating. By the year 2000, a staggering 10 million Windows users were affected by the ILOVEYOU virus. This was a worm that spread rapidly simply via email attachments. It proved that human error was still a massive vulnerability, effectively impacting mainstream computing all across the globe.
Which brings us to Part 3, hacktivism and data breaches. As cybercrime matured, a brand new concept emerged, hacktivism. Groups began acting outside the law to push social agendas. It's defined as the act of hacking a computer network to promote a political agenda, force social change, or protect everyday privacy. This is where we start to see the true seeds of hacking being used explicitly as a political tool. In 2003, we see two massive parallel forces rise up. On one side, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security forms a dedicated cybersecurity division, and on the other side, the infamous hacktivist group Anonymous is born, cementing the era of the digital vigilante. Wearing their signature Guy Fawkes masks, they famously targeted organizations like the Church of Scientology. Ideological warfare was officially online. And as a result, the scale of vulnerabilities just exploded. In 2013, hackers installed malware directly onto servers to gain virtually unlimited backdoor access to an unbelievable 3 billion Yahoo user accounts. 3 billion! It exposed top confidential user information and showcased that data was the new gold, and hackers were finding ways to take all of it at a totally unprecedented scale. Now we arrive at Part 4, hacking global politics. To really understand this leap, we have to understand state-sponsored attacks. This is cyber espionage or warfare coordinated by a national intelligence agency against foreign targets and infrastructure. The goal here is no longer just a quick buck or vigilante justice. Hackers are now deployed as digital soldiers to gather global intelligence, steal state secrets, and covertly manipulate the politics of rival nations right from the shadows.
We can see this rapid escalation very clearly when we look at recent history. In 2010, Operation Aurora saw Chinese state-sponsored actors targeting Google's IT infrastructure to track U.S. intelligence watch lists. Then, in 2016, Russian intelligence agencies orchestrated the DNC email leaks, targeting the Democratic National Committee. Impartially speaking, the facts show that major world powers are now actively utilizing digital infiltration to spy on and disrupt other nations.
The 2016 U.S. election leaks definitively proved that cyber operations are now weaponized to sway international politics and public trust in our institutions. The innocent computer jumping of that 1970s creeper program has officially evolved into a mechanism fully capable of shaking the foundations of global democratic systems.
And finally, Part 5, the future of cyber warfare.
So the tactics of the past 50 years, they're just a foundation. Cybercrime is growing exponentially, and the field is rapidly moving well beyond basic malware to exploit emergent technologies. This timeline of escalation isn't slowing down. If anything, it's speeding up.
I want to end this explainer with a provocative thought. As emergent technologies continue to evolve, how will state-sponsored hackers weaponize AI and machine learning next? Think about it. If a physical floppy disk could hold networks hostage back in 1989, what's going to happen when these global actors fully harness the immense, autonomous power of artificial intelligence to influence our politics and our security? It's a really critical question we must all keep in mind as we navigate our connected future. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.